if there's one thing I love about this series, it's how horrible characters are to one another in the main cast. Like, seriously, Satanya is just the ultimate dartboard. They just keep throwing darts at her left and right. The only one who really doesn't is Vinay, because Vinay is the only really good person in this group. I mean, Satanya's twisted in her own way, but she definitely is more pure than the other two. But really, Vinay is the only one who actually has a good heart currently in the group of characters. But what I love is just all throughout this episode, from them not inviting her to the beach, which of course they eventually were going to everyone just kind of trolling her saying, oh yeah, we're going to the beach. See ya. And just the look of despair and just hatred she has. I just loved her faces all throughout the episode, to even when they're on the beach and they're just burying her in the sand, to even literally Gab killing her with a bat, which, if this wasn't Angels and Demons, I would think the expression they use with the animation to show their souls floating away would be for a comic relief. Like, that's it, they're not actually dying. But because this is Angels and Demons, I think they literally are getting killed and then just their souls are being put back in their body. At least that's how I'm portraying it. As I mean, we've already seen literally Satanya get killed like 2 times, once with a door and now once with a bat, which it's always been Gab, now that I think of it, who has ended up pretty much making her soul separate from her body, which is just sad in its own way. But I love the despair and just the torture. Like, it's kind of sickening that I like it, but I mean, it's such a cute series, it doesn't feel sickening. That they just keep torturing poor Satanya every single episode, and it's just hilarious. Like, the overall character dynamics, like, this episode at the core, it's a beach episode. And generally with those beach episodes, you feel like, oh, they're just here so they can put the characters in their swimsuits. But when I was watching this episode, I didn't feel that. I felt like, at the core, we were still getting the exact same character dynamics we were getting last week and the week before. So it didn't feel like they were just throwing them in the bathing suits just so people could see them in their bathing suits. We were just at a different location, which allowed for different comic relief to happen, which is something I appreciate. Like, this is probably my least favorite episode of the 4 so far, but it still felt like it fit with these episodes, you know? It didn't feel like we're watching a spin-off OVA for the fan service like a lot of series will do. This actually felt like it belonged in the overall episode list. And that's impressive, because I usually hate beach episodes. I usually despise them with a passion, because I do feel like, oh, they're putting them in a slice of life moment to see them in their bathing suit. Nothing's happened. But this actually had the characters and the cast dynamic feel like everything else we've already seen, just in a new setting. I mean, we even got a really funny moment with the dog about to pee on Satanya, which I was just like, are they really going this route? And then, of course, it doesn't happen, but she gets sprayed by a water gun. But I love that. You know, there's just a lot of really simple moments like that we couldn't have unless we were on the beach, and I thought it worked in its favor. Just this overall episode, it was fun. Like, it's definitely my least favorite of the 4 so far. It had me laughing the least, but it did still have me laugh a couple of times, and I just really like how they're doing the animation. There's so many times, like, when you look at Satanya's face, they'll kind of remove her eyes, and they'll drastically shift the character design to have the most absurd facial reaction, and they do it on all the characters, but definitely Satanya was the key star of this episode. But I really love how they're portraying the animation. Like, something like this would only work in anime. If this was live action, they couldn't do this. Even with CG, they wouldn't be able to make it this funny, you know what I mean? So I really like how they're portraying this. My favorite part of the episode is actually, which is interesting, because they played the ending song like at the halfway mark of this episode, which I thought was a little weird. But pretty much, you know, they're gonna forget to do their homework. That's a common trope that they're gonna use in this series, which I find, you know, it works in its favor. So everyone comes over to copy her homework. And they end up talking about how Vinay as well as Gab met, and we get to see Gab as her pure self and how they introduce. And I just loved watching, as the story is being told, Satanya stopping it and just saying, what? That is not her. Who is this imposter? And it gets progressively worse as it goes on, to the point where Vinay doesn't even want to tell her the next book, basically, as this is like a trilogy of just horribleness that progresses worse. And I just love that. Like, I just love that comic relief. I love that dynamic, and I love Satanya this episode. This was definitely her episode to shine. She was amazing this episode. Just everything about this series has been overall perfect to me. Like, even though this didn't have me laughing nonstop like the previous episodes, this still didn't feel like a bad episode. I'm loving what this is doing. I love Himoto when that aired, and this is definitely the spiritual successor, in my opinion, to Himoto. Like, I'm loving this from start to finish. if it can just keep this up, like even if we have an episode that's lower than what this was, if it still feels like the character dynamics work for the setting they're in, and they're not just going the typical route of doing something for fan service or cliches that really feel like they're out of place, this could end in a perfect way as a comedy series to me, which I think comedy series, they go too high, or like they set their bar too high, or they set it too low and they stick to too much standards. But I do think this has its own charm that makes it stick out from others in the genre, and I'm just having a blast with the character dynamics. Really, so far, my biggest issues with it would be that it doesn't constantly have me laughing, which I think if that was a true issue that I have, it'd be an unrealistic one, as when am I going to find a series that has me laughing nonstop that is a comedy series? But for the comedy that has made me laugh, it's made me laugh more than a lot of comedy series have done, and for that, it's so far a perfect series as a comedy series, at least for me. Like, this is a show that was completely designed for me. Some people are going to hate the character dynamics, and that's fine, everyone's comedy taste is going to be different, but for me, I'm loving the direction. Really, I've yet to see an artistic decision that I felt like was a dip in quality. The voice acting has still been on point, the openings, the endings, and when they do use an OST, which definitely I could say the OST is underused in certain ways, but I think because of how well the characters' voices are working to actually make that the focal point, a strong OST definitely isn't that needed in this case. Generally, I would say you would need something to at least stand out to help support everything the story and the characters are doing. But for something like this, I think it's fine that they underuse the OST. They definitely do use it in certain scenes, but I think it is fine for how they're using it. So really, at this point, 4 episodes in, I don't have an issue. Seriously, like, I don't have an issue for the series, and I usually would at this point for any series, not just a comedy one. You know, just every character, no matter who we're focusing on or who's getting tortured, no matter what's happening, I'm always invested. And I honestly look forward to this, one of the most anticipated shows every week that I watch. I'm having a blast of this. Honestly, it just surprises me and goes to show that Dogakobo is seriously one of the most underappreciated comedy studios that are out there. I mean, they do things that are not comedy-based, but when they do comedy, they do it damn well. But for anyone who watched this episode, what did you think of this beach episode? Were you surprised that this felt like it wasn't just going for fan service and actually had purpose? Because a lot of beach episodes don't do that. And what was your favorite gag in the episode? Because I have to say, it was Satanya near the end when she just couldn't believe Gab used to be an angel. That had me laughing. So let me know your thoughts, and as always, hit that like button if you did enjoy the video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.